Hmm. We are preparing for the last days of Passover. Seventh day, which is the day that the Jewish people crossed the sea. We crossed the sea, it split, and we were saved. Till then, we went out of Egypt, but you can take the Jew out of Egypt, but not Egypt out of the Jew. And with the splitting of the sea, finally, the fear of the Egyptians was no longer upon the Jew. And the final day of Passover celebrates Achon Pesach, last day of Passover, and we have a special custom, Mashiach Suda, festive meal of Mashiach, that we celebrate. And the light of Mashiach, of the Messianic era, shines on that day very specially. So, very specially so, it shines on that day. That's Thursday. So if you're near a Chabad, go join Chabad. Everywhere Chabad has the festive meal of Mashiach, the festive meal of the future of now. So do come and join. If you're here in Montreal, come join us here at Chabad Zichron. And wherever you are, even if you do it at home, celebrate at home. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Montreal, Chabad Zichron Kadeshim, where it's a privilege, a pleasure to share with you the Tanya today. That is meaningful, like every day. We welcome, as we always do. So many of you come every day. Amazing. Brett in Pennsylvania, Boker Tov. Rachamim is in Houston, Texas. John is North Carolina, Shalom. We have Josefa in in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. Rusty is from Texas. Bob is from Morocco. Welcome. Good afternoon. We have with us Rena in Colorado. Daphne is having a terrific Tuesday in South Carolina, while Simcha is joining us in Florida. Diane, good morning in Arizona. David is joining us from Gold River, California. Who else is here with us? Oops. Monica in Arkansas has joined us. And Clem is in Brisbane, Australia, where it's very late. Liba and Linda and Davida are in New York. Good morning. Sandy is in Michigan. Stan, good afternoon to you in London, England. Julia is in Somerset, Pennsylvania. Welcome. Elise, good morning to you in Georgia. Joseph has joined us in sunny, beautiful day in Jersey. Louise is in Sydney, Australia. Good morning. Beautiful. We have Vilma, Celeste, we have Eliana, Lisa. We have Instagrammers, Akoy in Lima, Peru. We have Astra, we have Rachel in South Carolina. Madison is with us here in Montreal. Jennifer is in Minnesota. Alice in Baltimore. Yenta de la Benta in New York. Beautiful. Okay. Can you choose your gender? That's a hot button topic, which we're not going to go into that topic. Because gender has already been chosen, not just down here, but in the spiritual world. There's gender. In the divine itself. Now, ultimately, God is beyond any kind of gender. But yet, as God contracts upon him and brings into the world of Atzilus, the world, the emanation of God, there's the concept of male and female. Now, the context in what we're talking about over here is, why do you do what you do? So the human condition, we do everything in order to have a benefit for ourselves, period. What benefits me is what I do. That's the human condition. The divine condition is that I do it for the sake of God, to connect to God, and to connect with, in a manner that has wings, two wings, like a child to a parent, son to a father, or like a servant to a master. So a child to a parent will be out of love, and a master and a servant to a master will be out of fear, not fear of punishment. We're not talking about such a low level. The fear of disconnect. Master wants to be connected, or a child and as a servant, a real, true sense of a servant who recognizes the goodness and the greatness of their master, doesn't want to be disconnected, wants to be connected. Likewise, a child wants to be connected. Difference is, what motivates the child is going to be love, right? And we're using this only by way of metaphor. Obviously, a child could be out of fear of disconnect too, right? Whereas the servant, it's more about the presence of the master and therefore the sense of fear of disconnect. So that's what motivates. But now comes the Alter Rebbe and says, there's even a more profound motivation. As our sages explain in the Talmud, that a person should never separate themselves from the community. Simple meaning is, hey, community is involved in some kind of effort, you should be part of it. Now, we mean here community means kind of like your synagogue community type of thing, Doesn't mean your city, like all of, Montreal or parts of Montreal, for example. Like your synagogue or if you're part of the Hasidic community, shall we say, right? So that deeper meaning is that what you do should not be for yourself, even to cling to God. And, to be connected and not to be disconnected. The two wings, the son and the servant, right? Love and awe, which ultimately is about you connecting and not being disconnected from God, from the divine, which, hey, that's amazing that we should have that mindfulness. But here is something even greater, is that you are doing the mitzvah, studying Torah, for example, right now, for the sake of all of the Jewish souls, the souls of Israel. Now, what does that mean? It means as follows. God is the source of all life. Absolutely. The inner will of God is where the Shekhinah is, the divine presence of God, and that imbues us when we do a mitzvah. It is vital. That's where we get our vitality from. Right now, we're learning Torah, so we're getting it from the inner will of God, the Shekhinah, the divine presence. In the words of Torah, the thoughts of Torah, we're now being vitalized from that Shekhinah, the inner will. Likewise, when we perform an act of a mitzvah, whether it's being charitable, whether it's prayer, or whatever, right? And what that does actually, it creates a union. Our mitzvah creates a union above between the male and the female of the divine. So we get the vitality from the divine, but actually, through what we do, we create a union in the divine that begets even new vitality, because that's what a union does. It produces an offspring. So every time we do a mitzvah, we're producing an offspring above. We're creating new life. So with the intent of cleaving to God, that new life would come to me, but not to separate yourself from the community. Deeper meaning that would mean is that new life that you're creating is for the community. It's for all the souls of the Jewish people. So when you do the mitzvah, and this is for those who have the blue Chabad Siddur, Hebrew English. So on page 30, there's a L'Shem Yichud Kucha Brichu that we say before Baruch Shamar, before the more intense part of the davening begins, that we say, may this be done in the name of the Shekhinah, which is the feminine part of the divine, and the Kucha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, which is the male part of the divine. May this create a union, what I'm doing now, in the name of all of Israel, meaning for the sake of all the souls of the Jewish people. So this is to say that to observe Torah and mitzvahs, not even for my own personal spiritual well-being of connecting and not being disconnected from God, but for the benefit of in the name of all of Israel. It's a very powerful idea. Continues the Alter Rebbe in brackets, or in a note rather, not in brackets. This union that we just spoke about, male and female, then creates also a union, something that we've spoken about previously in this chapter itself, in chapter 40, we're now in chapter 41, that this union creates a coalescing of the divine attributes of Chesed and Gvura. So, if there was a judgment on high, whether for us or for anybody else of the community, our mitzvah that we do that creates a union above. The mitzvah we do creates a union. That union creates new life. Just like physically down here, a union between, man and woman, or the way it's supposed to be, husband and wife, right, creates a union, creates new life, right? So every time we do a mitzvah, we're creating new life. And that new life embraces us with vitality that's coming from the inner will of God. And here we're saying, be mindful, have intent, kavana, to do it for the sake of the entirety of the font of all the souls of Israel. Very powerful. So a lot of powerful ideas here. One is that look at the empowerment that we have, that we're in control through a mitzvah, God's mitzvah, that we can bring life to ourselves and beyond ourselves to the community of souls of the Jewish people. That's extremely empowering. Then, by the way, through that, then the entire world gets vitality through the Jewish people. That's why it's important that the nations of the world recognize and support and be helpful to the Jewish people, because in the end, that's helpful to themselves and helpful to all of humanity. So that's a very powerful idea. But what an empowerment. And what a mitzvah, this is what it does. Yes, not because I'm so great, my mitzvah creates this union, but that's what God creates, gives us the power that we can do. So we've learned in the past that there's nothing new under the sun. Under the sun, you can't create anything. It's all E equals mc squared. It's either energy or mass, and it goes back and forth between them. You're just changing a state of being, but it's all the same. But it's not all the same in a mitzvah. In a mitzvah, we touch the divine. We actually create a union in the divine between the male and female parts of the divine. And that union brings new light, new life. That's beyond the sun. And therefore, our destiny is not bound by below the sun, but beyond. Very powerful teachings. As we've said so many times every day, the Alter Rebbe just throws us another golden nugget, a new idea. Every single day, if you follow, you'll see that. You'll see that in such a real way. Okay, I don't see any questions. Any comments? Any thoughts? 2 question marks before you ask. Yeah. Reminder, tonight is Yom Tov, the 7th day of Passover. Following day is the 8th day of Passover. Mashiach Suda, the festive meal, Mashiach. Celebrate it. So much to celebrate. All right, folks. Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you with Chabad Zirch and Kadesh from Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the time. You have an amazing day and a wonderful good Yom Tov.